Good morning, Linux lovers. My name's Wimpy. Welcome to my world. If you're watching this on YouTube, this was originally recorded live on September the 21st over on twitch.tv/Wimpy's World. So if you want to join in interactively, please do consider giving me a follow over there. Today, I'm going to be submitting a pull request to an open source project called DockerSlim. DockerSlim is an open source project sponsored by the organization that I work for, Slim AI. I'm adding a simple installer to it. I started the install a couple of streams ago. Today I'm just going to be making sure that's fit to submit as a draft pull request. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. That'll be a simple shell script that installs on Linux and Mac OS, including M1 and ARM for Linux. Right, so with that, I think I will head over and just ping out a couple of messages very quickly. So let's get these done. And this one. Right then, so without further ado, let's just have a little think about what I need here. So this is the first of sort of a simplifying the installation of DockerSlim effort that I'm making. Good morning, Yannick. How are you? Are you back home? Weren't you away over the weekend or something? So yeah, the DockerSlim instructions are straightforward, but there's, download this, extract it this way, which is different for each of the architectures, and then copy a binary there. So I've turned that into a single script. And then I think what I'll do from here is I'll take a look at making a deb and a snap for DockerSlim as well, just to sort of round out the options. There's already a brew install for Mac OS, although I hear that is somewhat reliable due to whether or not the dependent libraries are up to date in brew or not, but I may circle back to that at a future date as well. But I'm glad you're back and taking the day off to recover from the weekend. Very good. Right. Okay. So let's head over here. Let's just go through what we're going to be looking at today. So I'm also aware that maybe I need to change something in my Twitch configuration, which I probably don't have time to do right now. Right. So this is the script itself. I don't need settings open. I have made a few changes since the last time we looked at this, so it's mostly all wrapped up in a single function, which is a bit big, and I'd prefer to break things down a bit more, but we'll go with it for now. So let's just look at sort of the entry point for the script, which is here. So everything above this point is the function. So it now, has a simple, what this thing is. It checks that you are in the root context, and then it calls the function above. So if we go and look at the function above. Hello, Nick DM. How you doing? Thanks for stopping by again. So we set up a bunch of local variables first of all, which we'll be using in this function. And then this is a new piece here. So this uses in a very simple way the GitHub API to go and look at the released versions of DockerSlim, and it pulls out the current release from that API. It's a very simple approach, but it does appear to work. I've done similar things in the past, and this is simpler than I would have normally implemented because I didn't want to add a dependency on JQ. It then composes the base URL for where the release exists, or it drops out. We then get the current running kernel from the machine and the machine architecture as well. And then we use that information to determine if the kernel is Linux, then it's a tar.gz that we're going to be downloading. And then we look at the architecture to derive this dist, and this is the path that exists within the archive for the different architectures. So we derive that, and then if it's Darwin, which is macOS, we say we're going to grab the zip, and then the dist is slightly different dependent on whether it's x86 or ARM64 for the M1. And then if it's a kernel we didn't recognize, we drop out. And then we then make sure that we actually have a dist set. If that's not set, then we obviously encountered some kind of unknown combination, and again we drop out. And then from there we derive the file name that we're going to be downloading. So that's what we have there. So good morning Takeoff, good morning TC, welcome back everyone. Nice one Takeoff, very good. Yeah, lots of Star Wars stuff. I have been looking at a Death Star clock. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it or not, but I'm very tempted. Right, so once we have all of that information, we then know the URL and the file name. So we simply, update the status of what the script's doing. It's going to download. We make a temporary directory and also store that as a variable. And then we download that current release of DockerSlim to the temporary directory, and then dependent on whether it's a zip or a tarball, we extract it appropriately, and then we drop out if we encounter an unknown file extension. And then we first of all we make sure that user local bin exists, because it's possible that somebody may run this on some architecture in the future that doesn't have local bin, and I thought I'll just catch that, because if it doesn't exist, it's possible it's not going to be in the path, so actually depositing this file in user local bin may not be all that helpful anyway. So then we just drop the two DockerSlim binaries into user local bin, and we just make sure we set the executable bit on those files, because zip files, oversimplistically, you can't guarantee that attributes are saved within zip files. Now, I think they are in the case here because they're built on Linux, but just to be sure certain, we set the executable bit here. This is really for macOS. Or in the eventuality that maybe the build process doesn't set the executable flags as it makes those archives in the future. And then we clean up after ourselves, remove the temporary directory, and then we just run DockerSlim and the version to actually spit out, the current version and hash. So that's basically the script, and we can run that. So if we run this will fall over because I'm not root. So if I put a sudo in front of that, and my super secret password, or which I can't spell test today, goodness. Right then, so then we can see it's downloading the current release, it unpacks, it places it in user local bin, and then it outputs the current version of DockerSlim, and that's it. So the idea is that we'll curl to bash, that command. That's the idea, at least. Right then, so I don't think there's any changes we need to make to this. I think all of that looks good. What's this here? Quote this to prevent word splitting. Quote this. Like this. This is a shell check thing, isn't it? Is that what it wants me to do? No? Or does it want this? No, or does it want... You like that, Yannick? There we go. Okay, it seems to want that. Let's just make sure that still works. Okay, so that fell over. That's good. Okay, so we'll run that again. Okay, so that works. Okay, so that's one shell check error. Yes, it's a little bit of, I thought it would make, when live streaming and in a code editor, I thought it would make the code editor just a little bit more engaging. Good morning, Graham. Welcome back. How are you today? Thanks, Graham. I wasn't paying attention to your comments, but yeah, I got there in the end. I'm trying really hard to write shell check compliant scripts from the get-go. So I just saw that that was underlined, so I thought I'd take care of that. I don't think there's anything else in here that doesn't pass. So I've got shell check turned on. Here we go. Down here we've got 00, so that's it. It's fine. We have indeed fixed the last issue. So those sparks. Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it? I thought that was good. I mean, let's just think. Let's write a little something, and you can see sort of how it works. So once you start, going, you get things in the appropriate colors. So if we do local x equals that, and then x equals this is a string. There we go. So I just thought that was a little bit of fun, just to liven up the the code editor. So it doesn't do it on cursor movements, but it does do it on text entry and short keys to save and what have you, stuff like that. Yeah, blingtastic. Glad you like that, RJ. I thought that was good fun. Right then. So, let's just click on this. That's fine. I think I've got bot information turned off in my chat, and I may need to change that in a future stream. Right then, it's VS Code Bling for sure. Yeah, it's just a little bit of novelty factor. So Takov says, I was wondering if it's possible to build the snap version of OBS for Arch with PKG build, because I'm thinking it might be impossible due to the hard-coded library paths. So technical, that's an involved question. Let's get into that very quickly. So you've asked a question there. So I think, Takov, you're saying you want to know if it's possible to build the snap version of OBS for Arch Linux, right? With PKG build. Technically, at its sort of most fundamental level, a snap is just a squashfs file. So Snapcraft is a tool that exists to simplify the creation of snaps. And it does some, has some tooling in there to, run the various build systems for you the right way. But you don't have to use it. You can just build everything in a ch root somewhere and then create a squashfs, and you'll have to put a little bit of metadata inside it, but it's not hard. Now, that said, you're saying because of hard-coded library paths. Which hard-coded library paths are you referring to? And if you look at the YAML for the OBS Studio Snap, you will see there are hard-coded paths due to some of the libraries and things that are used. And layouts at the top of that YAML is what enables hard-coded paths to be accommodated inside a Snap. Now, the other question is, why do you need to build it on Arch with PKG build anyway? So that I don't understand why that's a requirement. So I'd be interested to know what you're up to there. No. So Graham asks, if I delete lines, does it do big explosions? No, it doesn't, sadly. I would have liked, if you have a bunch of text like this, if you sort of do a Tetris, I'd have loved a nice big explosion, something a bit more meaningful, but sadly not. What I'd like is to sort radar ping when I'm not sure what you're saying there, Yannick. This is, I used to be a large developer opportunity if I ever saw one. Yeah. That's a good meme, isn't it? Right. This was for one of those folks whom does not like Snapd. Right, so I'm still a bit confused. If you don't like Snapd, why would you make a snap? Are you saying you don't want to make a snap? You want to make a build of OBS in the same way the snap makes a build of OBS, but not in a snap? It's maybe that what you're asking for. Because just making a snap with a PKG build, you still end up with a snap, which requires Snapd. You can't run snaps without Snapd. That's an absolute requirement. I'm just catching up on the chat here. But the whole add-on settings pack useful in OBS. Yeah. So something that I am interested in doing, Takov, is this. I thought it would be fun.
You for the follow, Blabs99.
Thanks very much for the follow and welcome. Things are not working. Why are things not working? God. I turned on this chat integration and I just don't see it. Let me just end that and save it again. Oh, that isn't what I meant to do. No. That's the wrong thing. This is what we want. Ooh, goodness, that's it's a bit lively. Sorry, I've just found this thing where you can put little Twitch goals, and it wasn't working. So I'll re-add it. There we go. Hopefully in the chat now it says the right thing. Right then, I don't know why that wasn't working earlier, but there we go. Right then, so yes, Takov, one of the things that I'm interested in working on, probably from a couple of weeks from now, is I'm interested in seeing if I can put OBS Studio in Docker. I know that is possible. But put OBS Studio in Docker in the same way that I've created the snap with all of that extra gubbins built in, and most importantly, with the ability to reach out to all of the GPUs to do all of the hardware acceleration stuff. Now, the reason I'm interested in doing that is because it will force me to learn some things about Docker that I've never done before. One, that will be quite a sophisticated, build script, and also I've not really experimented in a meaningful way with GPU acceleration in Docker containers or desktop applications for that matter. So that's something I'm thinking of tackling. Would your friend find that a more palatable option, do you think? But yeah, I was thinking of doing that here, like set a time period and just chip away at it, do a little bit each day, and sort of, have a whole series of that's, the thing that I'm working on. Right then, so let's have a look here. Yeah, okay, so I can see you want all of the extra bits and bobs. That makes sense, yeah. So, I'd like a circle to show around the mouse and move away and fade. Oh, I see. So you want mouse tracking in the code editor, Yannick? Is that what you're looking for? I'm sure that must exist, surely. So I just wanted to build it with the same plugins. Yeah, so you could do that. You could take what I've done, because all of the build, steps are there, and turn it into a script that does everything in the same order, and maybe build it in /opt OBS Studio batteries included or something, so that it's all in its own location. Yeah, I think you could adapt the YAML to a PKG build, no problem. Right then, yes, you don't want a snap. Yeah, okay, so I got there in the end. Yeah, I think, well, as you heard, you've heard what I'm thinking in the future, making a Docker container. as a learning exercise. Yeah, it will be a massive Docker, but, you know, the OBS Studio is a large application with a lot of, you know, complicated stuff. So, you know, that's reasonable, I think. You know, you can't avoid big things being big. That's just the nature of it. So the Nvidia stuff, I think we can mount outside. So there's the Nvidia container runtime that allows your container to connect to the host userland for Nvidia, so you don't have to put it inside the Docker container or any container. And I've done that with Lexi and LexD in the past, and that works very well. Yeah, you can definitely do it, Graham. I've seen, I did do a cursory look at like desktop apps in containers. There seems to be two ways of doing it. The right way, which is to, you know, expose the display server socket inside the container, and, you know, they run just as it was an application. Or a lot of people do this whole run VNC server inside the container, and then you sort of remote into the container, and that's not what I want to do at all. But yeah, I've seen a couple of approaches. Definitely interested in that. So Yannick, if you're looking for mouse tracking in VS Code, that may well be like a plugin somebody has written as like an accessibility feature, or it may even be a setting that exists in Visual Studio Code as an accessibility feature. Right, that wasn't very clear. Okay. The graphics card requires a version of X from 2006, and I'd like to run a secure modern distro on this old laptop. I was thinking about bind mounting the socket. Yeah, you can bind mount the socket. Yeah, you can expose the socket in a number of ways, for sure. Yes, Takov, it would be possible to support AMD and Intel and Nvidia in much the same way the Snap does. You know, that the Snap supports all three. Right then. Hey King Egypt, good morning and welcome back. How are you? Right then. So let's go back over here, and let's save that because we've been messing around with it. And let's get over to here, and we'll go to the DockerSlim GitHub, and I think we might need to. Oh, hello. Might need to zoom in a little bit there. Maybe not that much, Martin, bit carried away. So this is the repo, and I did speak to Kyle, who is the creator of DockerSlim and also our CTO, to sort of run this idea by him. So we're both in agreement that curl pipe to bash is not ideal. So I'm going to submit this as a draft pull request, and you know, then start looking at other packaging formats for Linux. KVM pass through. KVM, you're talking, sorry, KVM, it's one of those acronyms that's used for different things. You mean QEMU with the kernel module? No, it should be possible to expose the GPU to the container because it's a container, it's not a virtual machine. I mean, I'm taking a bit of a guess here on the AMD and Intel side of things, because like I say, I've never done this with Docker, but certainly with Nvidia I know that that's possible. Right then, so I've forked this, so let's get up a terminal. And we'll pull that down. Ooh, come on, get on the right virtual screen. There we go. So let's just grab DockerSlim from my repo and we'll start Gitkraken. And bring that down here. Anyone else using Gitkraken here? Out of interest, I flipping love this bit of software. Yeah, I was a bit confused about this running X from 2006. I mean, that's a long time ago. A long time ago. I don't understand why that's a necessity. Do you mean X or do you mean Mesa or something else? Good. Ah, Danny, I'm so glad you're here. I have questions for you. So let me just open this repo. Development. What was this? This was DockerSlim and DockerSlim. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll create a branch here. I can't see it for looking. Why can't I see it for looking? Is it here? Create branch here. There we go. Let's just call it install script. So that's my branch, and we'll come there and we'll go to DockerSlim. There we go. We're in the right branch there. So we'll code the README like so, and we will cp that into, there's a directory called scripts. So I think I'll put it there because it was the most appropriate place I could find. Yes, I love. If anyone, does anyone want not an invite code, a referral code for Gitkraken? I think I still have some. Let's have a look. I'll just do it, shall I? Let's just drag this over here. I think I have to click on that button. No. Let's do... No. This one. There. Okay. There it is. That's the thing we're looking for. So we'll copy that. There we go. And then close that. So if anyone's interested in Gitkraken, that's my referral code. I know some people have taken advantage of it in the past. I can't remember what it saves, but there we go. You've got sparkles as well now, have you, Yannick? Right then. So let's just go and look at Visual Studio Code, because here we've now got we need to find the install. Here it is. You can run an update. Yes, you can. So here's the download. So we can do, let's think about this for a moment. I put a command into the the Slim AI community last week for people to test. So let's grab that. Which is going to look a bit like Control V. Going to look a bit like that, but it's going to be not that gist. It's going to be over here. So if we just pick a random thing from scripts, that one there, copy, there. So it's going to be that less that script. There we go. So that's the and that will be bash. There we go. So that's what I need to put in. I just need to figure out where right, okay, that's all going on here. Yeah, I know, that's why I was very confused. Danny, the talk of old X, I'm a bit flummoxed. Right, I just need to bring up that. There we go. Then I can see what's going on. Right then. So, oh, the S3 Savage card. Wow. Okay. You won't be able to run OBS on such an old thing because it requires OpenGL. I want to say 2.1 or 3. I can't remember which it is, but yeah. In that case, given it's such an old thing, run it headless and expose it through a container using VNC, because you're not going to have any meaningful acceleration to speak of on such a card. Or get a Raspberry Pi. Right, okay. So I'm just catching up. So Yannick's got sparkles. You can make them real explosions. Yes, you can make them into all sorts of things. Right then. So, Danny, as you're here, I did some work to update Quickemu a couple of weeks ago, which I know you're aware of, and I did that because I was inspired by that question you asked of me. So the question is, I know you've been tinkering on your own. If you solved your requirement, can you do the thing you wanted to do? And I suppose really is, are you interested in getting together to do a stream to talk about that particular topic? Because I think that's going to be something of interest to a lot of people in the coming weeks, and it would be good to get that information out there. Let me know if that's something you're still working on, stroke interested in. Right, okay, so if we just look in the docs here, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So there's homebrew, so I think we'll add a new section. Good morning, Esme, how are you? Yeah, I'm already 1 cup of tea to the good here. Yeah, so Danny came to me with a very interesting question, which piqued my interest, which was why Quickemu got brushed up into current versions. Toot sweet. Okay, apart from nested virtualization. Okay, I don't think that's an issue. But you got the so did you make that additional tool a dependency of Quickemu at all, or do you just, like, you know, stand that up as a separate package? Because I was thinking about it, I don't think it's a requirement to have that thing installed and working. It's only, you know, it's like an additional step. So let's look down here. We've got this. So we've got all of this. Dare I just say, let's just say downloads. And let's grab that. Download the archive for your platform. So we'll have that. Maybe I'll leave that alone. Let's not change any. Control X downloads, and we'll make this script. We provide a script to automatically install the current release of DockerSlim on Linux and macOS, including on Linux x86. Silicon. There we go. So that would be the doc change, I think. So let's just right click on that and do a preview. Oh, I'm in the wrong window. Let's try that again. Open preview. There we go. So maybe I need to make that a little more. Let's just call it scripted install. Right. There we go. Okay. Oh, it's put a hard break in there. That's curious, isn't it? Why has it done that? Is that where it's meant to be? Okay, well, we'll do that then. Right, let's just look at the previews, here we go. Right then, so that'll do it. So if we go back to get cracking now, and then I'll just check on what's been said in chat. So yeah, I'd like to do a stream with Danny. I mean, technically we could do it in person, couldn't we? Danny and I happened. I think Danny's that way, about 3 miles or something. Okay. Added it as a separate and pulled it in via. Oh, so you've made a YAML of. Have you taken the QEMU Virgil YAML and bundled it all together in there, Danny. Is that what you were doing? King Egypt asks, I wonder if it would be easier to spot if scripted Docker and brew installations went before manual. Yeah, I'm not changing that because I know that Kyle agrees with me that curl pipe to bash is not the most secure solution. And I don't think we want to sort of, hide the fact that those things exist. But, I'm going to file this as a draft and, put some comments in there. Hampshire sounds like the best shire. It is the best shire, for sure. Yeah. Right then. So let's get in here. So if we go and look at the changes we've made here, get on the right virtual screen even. So this is quite straightforward. This is, I've tested and reviewed that. So I'm just going to add that as the thing. And I'm going to say scripts add install docker slim.sh. That is the only change for that. And we will stage that whole file. There we go. Commit that one change. Put in my encryption key, passphrase. Okay, and now, this has made a whole bunch of white space changes. Oh, golly gosh, wow. So I will just, thankfully, because Gitkraken is amazing, I can just stage this one bit here rather than, I don't want to stage this because this is all white space guff that, you clearly don't want to submit. So then we'll just say, readme, add scripted install instructions. Did I get that right? I'll just put the code chat to one side for a moment and just expand this. Yep, that's all I need. Commit change. So we'll do that, bring the chat back. Right, okay, Danny, got it. Okay, nice. Okay, so you're running the SWTPM daemon as a service inside the snap. Is that the idea? Yeah, Esme, you're observing in my opinion, the killer feature of Gitkraken, which is you can bang away on a whole bunch of code and then just, submit the hunks that you want. It's really easy to define the hunks that you want to put into commits. So I'm still quite undisciplined. I know you're supposed to make a branch and you're supposed to, work on, like I'm doing here. I have made a branch and I am doing a feature in a branch. I'm doing it the right way. But when I'm working on my personal projects, I tend to do everything in master, sit in code for hours, many evenings on the trot. And then I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I've done all together. But then using Gitkraken, I can still commit those as discrete features and bug fixes, even though there's a whole jumble of changes in there. I just love it. It's great. It's a command chain script. Okay, so you launch it as part of the QEMU. Okay, understood. Right. Okay. You still up for sort of sharing this with? I'd like to sort of incorporate it into what I've done with Quickemu, because I'd like to be able to add a Windows 11 piece to the Quickemu docs, I think that would be very useful. Oh, okay, good. We'll have to have, well, I'll have a chat then. We'll figure out a time that works for us to do that. Yeah, so Graham points out for real serious control, you can do git add -i, which is the equivalent of what, you know, I was just doing there in Gitkraken. I find Gitkraken just, I don't have to remember any of that stuff about Git. I know what it is I want to do in Git, and I can find, you know, the feature in the menus in Gitkraken. Yeah, don't be lazy like me though. I'm doing it the right way here. I've created a branch, and now, you know, using Gitkraken, because I've got that branch, I can push that, which will push that branch to my my fork, which is now done. But now I can right click on that and I can start a pull request. So that's a pull request from my fork, but I can go to DockerSlim master, you know, so I can define here, and I can just say add scripted installation. And I'm going to make this a draft. So this pull request adds a curl pipe bash scripted installation of DockerSlim for Linux, x86, and ARM, and macOS, x86, and Apple Silicon. So that's what I'm adding here, and then we'll say oh gosh, can't type today. As a draft. Draft. Now the reason I'm submitting this as a draft is twofold. One is this installs to user local bin, which if I create packages in the future, hey Dust, good to see you again, thanks for stopping by. If I create deb packages in the future and what have you, those will install DockerSlim to user bin, but user local bin takes precedence over user bin. So if you've used this script, you're going to end up with a version of DockerSlim in user local bin that is potentially going to be out of step with what's in user bin. So I'm submitting this as a draft. So whether this script should install to user bin, user local bin, as it does now, or user bin. I ask this because also intend make deb snap and distro native packages, which will install to user bin. Actually, yeah. Situation where an old DockerSlim binary is left dangling is left in local bin. Right then, so that's my concern. It's not a concern, I just want to discuss this. How you've never seen draft PRs? Yeah, so this is a good way. So I touched on this. Let's just go back and just talk on this point a little bit, because we draft PRs is only one part of this. So for example, how goes it? PR day. Yeah, just, you know, I'd done the work dust, so it was time to send it up and, you know, see what the rest of the team make of it. So Esme, there's a couple of things about this. When we did the whole chat on the Slim DevOps channel a couple of weeks ago with Jono and Gillian about community, one of the things I talked about is, like, when you are wanting to get involved with a community, like as a code contributor, even if that code is like documentation or translations, but, you know, making a contribution through pull requests or whatever, there's a couple of things that you should do before you just start working on stuff. If it's a bug, then fine, you know, make a pull request that fixes the bug that's already in the issue tracker. No complexity there. You need to make sure that you've followed their, you know, contribution guidelines and read all of the stuff, and you're submitting the patch in the right way if they've got, you know, formatting requirements on the language. So you should read all of that, figure out how that community likes to operate, and, you know, behave in the appropriate way. But I have seen on occasion people find a project, are massively enthusiastic about it, and think, well, what this needs is, it needs everything to be in pink. And they work for a very long time, completely refactoring everything to make the thing pink, and then submit a pull request that is this massive change, and then get disappointed when they're met with some pushback from the, you know, the project leads, who say, well, we didn't want it to be pink, you know, it's blue for a reason, or it's yellow for a reason. And then you get this sort of, you know, feeling of disenfranchisement because somebody's worked hard on something that nobody wants. So my advice was, if you've got something of significance that you want to add to a project, the best thing to do is to find out where that developer community hang out, where they have their discussions about, like, what the direction of the project is and what the roadmap is and what they're currently working towards, and have a conversation there first. One, to introduce yourself to those people, to find out if anyone's interested in your pink makeover. You know, is that something that people want working on? Maybe it is, but they don't want to do it until the next release that they're working on, or whatever it might be. But the best thing to do is, if you've got big changes, discuss it with the developers first. So this is a small change. This is a curl pipe to bash thing. You could say there's a little bit of controversy around those. So I discussed it with the project owner first and said, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Do you want it? And they said, well, making it easier is a good thing, but, you know, they'd prefer native distro packages as well. And I said, well, yeah, I'm planning on doing that too, but I thought I'd start here. So, you know, I've had that conversation with the owner of the project up front, because they have a number of installation instructions already. I didn't want to waste time creating, albeit a simple script for it to just bounce off the project because they don't want to go in that direction. So even so, there are still some considerations around this pull request. It's a simple script, but knowing that I'm going to make debs and other distro native packages in the future, I wanted to raise the point for discussion about user local bin versus user bin. Technically, the script should install in user local bin. That is, by convention, the right place to put the binary. But given I'm going to put some effort in to make distro packages which will put the binaries in the right place, you're going to end up with potentially 2 versions of DockerSlim in different spots. And then you'll be confused because you install a deb down the line, but you never get to run user bin because user local bin takes precedence. So, these are that's why I've raised it as a draft so it can be discussed. And also, maybe, they decide, actually, let's not do this. Let's just push forwards with making debs and RPMs and PKG builds and all the other things that I've talked about. Yeah. Yes, and Danny makes the point, rather pointedly, pointing to a project. Sometimes projects are a close knit of people and they just don't want your ideas at all. But this is why have a conversation first. You'll soon gauge the receptiveness. I saw it recently in OBS, actually. Somebody turned up with a massive PR. It was an interesting bit of work, and the OBS dev lead was just like, oh, I wish you'd discussed this with us first, because you've clearly put a load of work into this, but there's a bunch of issues with how you've gone around this, and I don't want to appear to be ungrateful, but you're creating work for us by having not discussed it with us first. So that was the last time I saw sort of a manifestation of this, where somebody's put a bunch of effort in, but at no point did they discuss it with the rest of the developers. And that's an easy mistake to make, but it's just the right thing to do. Introduce yourself to the devs. I haven't got the willpower to deal with people. I can understand that to some point, Dust. It's pros and cons. I mean, you can't not deal with people. You have to deal with people sooner or later. And if you make the effort and you signpost things clearly, then it pays off, because you basically get a bunch of people pulling in the right direction. Like, even if you have contribution guidelines, have an issue and PR template, and then raise issues for features and things you want added to the project. I've done that in the past, and then you just get pull requests from people who go, oh look, they wanted that feature adding, and I'm interested in adding that feature, I'll do it. So it can pay off. Yeah, you can't work in I also don't understand. So there's a privacy angle to this, but I don't get it. If people are working on open source projects, self-hosting your code is basically like putting it in a shoebox and hiding it at the back of the closet. Nobody will ever find you. You'll get no meaningful contributions. If you're writing open source code and then for privacy reasons not putting it on a code hosting site like SourceHut or GitLab or GitHub or any of the places where you can host code, then it's irrelevant. The traction that those platforms have, SourceHut not so much, but put it somewhere where people can get to it, signpost it. Otherwise there's almost zero value, because for me the value of open source is the collaborative nature. It's not about the licenses or anything like that. It's being able to collaborate with people. Lots of projects have contribution guidelines in the README. Yeah, and you can create, templates for the various projects, so issues and pull requests and what have you. have a standard template and you sort of outline, you know, if your pull request and your issue don't follow our template, then it's just going to get ignored, which is fair, right? Because those templates are there to save the developer's time in reviewing your code or triaging the issue you're reporting. And if you can't even follow those sort of, you know, helpful guidelines, then there's no, you know, I think you've voted yourself off Love Island. Yeah, so, you know, my advice was find out how the project operates, work on some low-hanging fruit to introduce yourself to, you know, the other people involved in the project. So just do some simple stuff. I usually start with packaging or some real simple triaging bugs, or, you know, stuff like that, and then talk to the team when you want to change things. Yeah, it's true. It depends what circles you move in. You know, there's some projects that are entirely around GitLab, but yeah, when you look at GitHub, it's, you know, it's many orders of magnitude larger. But both are excellent, you know, platforms for developing code on these days. So Dust says, I've been deving for 15 years now, still get anxiety about people seeing my code. Yeah, that's a universal constant. That's never going to change. You just have to get over that and just like lob it over the wall and deal with it. I can remember there was one organization I worked for where we made the decision to make everything open source, and then because the dev team was so embarrassed about like how quickly they'd cobbled some of the code together, they went through like a 6-month period of tidying up everything so they didn't feel embarrassed about, you know, the code that got you know, released as open source. Yeah, well, there's I suppose the lob it over the wall I mean here is like, just get over it. There is different quality of code out there in different projects. Like the quality of some of the code in my projects is far from the best, and I've got a number of projects that are in production that were basically spikes that, due to the fact that they're hobby projects, I didn't get the time to go back and implement properly. So Mate Tweak, which everyone raves about, that is the definition of spaghetti code. It's hideous. And similarly, the Software Boutique and Ubuntu Mate Welcome, that's a prototype in production. And again, look at the code. It's just awful. And I know Yannick's been doing fantastic work to sort of get us to a whole new platform for that, and I think I'm going to need to get involved in that, because yeah, we can't keep shipping Welcome the way it is. It's astonishing it still works, frankly. So it's kicked off a whole debate about, you know, to what Git's doing behind the scenes. Oh yeah, you will find good material on that, and you know, the actual command line interface to Git has improved considerably over the years. It's far less obtuse than it used to be. I've just got to the point where I'm like, I don't want to have to learn all of that anymore. And also I like nice things. So yeah, right. Let me just finish writing up this PR here.
Thank you for the follow, Broken Robot.
Hey, Broken Robot, that's a curious name. Thanks very much for the follow. Thanks for joining the stream. Right, let's go back here. So I was working on this. Wonder if I should put any of this in here at all. Yeah. Okay, I think we'll go with this. We'll submit that one. So that's the other advantage of Git Kraken. I can do all of that in there. Oh, it's opened over here. Minimize that. Let's go and bring up the browser here, and go to DockerSlim proper. Here it is. And let's just take a look at the pull request. There it is. So there's my PR, and that's going through CI at the moment, or it will do. So, you know, done my bit, and we'll see what comments that solicits. And in the coming up streams, I'll do make a deb, maybe. I'm a little bit concerned about that because technically there's two ways to make the deb. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's just see this conversation here about you know, contribution and what have you. I'm a little bit behind in this window here. Yeah, I mean, GitHub is just massive. I went to GitHub University, it was a few years ago now, and the numbers were just, you know, just astonishing. The number of developers and projects on GitHub. So yeah, come on then, Dust. What's the ETA at the moment? Come on, tell me 3 weeks. Tell me 3 weeks. I know you're waiting on. I think you said vaguely legal things. Champion at the bit here. Oh, you've been having a break. Okay, fair enough. Oh, there was a... Sorry, I just noticed there was something in the moderation queue there, so that's a little bit out of step. Spend the weekend having a break. Very nice. Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've never played any of the Final Fantasy games. Okay, right, so we're caught up there. So... yeah, I'm thinking, so that's what I wanted to get done today, and that is done. So that's good. So next I think I'm going to make the snap next, because I think that will be the easiest thing to make. And I do remember somebody saying recently they'd like to see a snap created from scratch. So I thought I'd do that. It'll be a classic snap because of what DockerSlim needs to do. I expect it will work appropriately, thinking about it. I don't know. Yeah, it should do. If it's a classic snap, it should be fine. And because it's Go, it should also work nicely in a classic snap as well. And then I was thinking of having a go at a deb. Now, there's two ways I can do that. I can cheat. I can make a PPA version which just ingests the binaries that come out of CI/CD artifacts and jam those in a deb, which is not the way to do it, but is the easiest way to get like an installable deb available. The correct way to do it is to build it as per Debian packaging policy, which means that all of the Go libraries that DockerSlim uses are pulled in as Debian dependencies. So all of those Go libraries need packaging first. And DockerSlim uses quite a lot, not a huge amount, but quite a lot of Go modules, which is obviously the right thing to do. But I don't know how many of those are like already packaged. So I'll have to do a bit of due diligence to decide whether or not I want to take that one on, because I don't want to spend the next like 9 months of my life packaging Docker Go libraries. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about there. So we'll have to see. But and I saw there was a PKG build for Arch in the AUR. So I might take a look at that and see what state that is in, and maybe contribute to that. So once we've got debs, then there'd be an RPM, and there, Big Pod had a little look around, and there wasn't a spec file knocking around anywhere. So maybe I might see if I can get one of my Fedora friends interested to, you know, run up a an RPM for DockerSlim as well. It'd be nice if like the major distro platforms have, you know, an easy way to install DockerSlim. That'd be good. Right. So what else have I got coming up here soon? What's Yannick say here? Very important PR54 to Quickemu. Oh, well, should we have a look at that now? Quickemu, issue 54. So for those of you that are not familiar, Quickemu is a wrapper around QEMU that I created to make, in air quotes, managing virtual machines easier on Linux. I imagine it works on Mac OS as well if you've got QEMU. So let's take a look. What have we got? Pull requests. Fixed a typo. Okay. Let's squash and merge that one. No, we don't need to squash and merge. Let's rebase and merge. Thanks, Yannick. There we go. That's done. In fact, I asked a question of somebody in here recently, so it was this. I didn't know why they were adding this. Right. Okay, then. So they've explained what that's for. It does conflict now. What else have we got here? Add libvirt to the PPA. Breaks libvirt, which in turn breaks virt manager and GNOME boxes. Is there any way you can add the latest libvirt to the PPA as well? I suppose so. Let's just do that. Maybe that is tomorrow's live stream right there. Take a look at that one. So let's assign my, and let's add a label, enhancement. There we go. So we know what that is now. These are all old, and so that could be fixed by the other thing. Okay, so we've got some stuff. Hey, Danny, looks like we can do some QEMU stuff then over the course of this week. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. That'll be tomorrow's then. We'll have a look at adding libvirt to the PPA. Seems like a reasonable thing to do. I wonder if that means we need a new virt manager as well. I didn't want to get into that. You like that? That's uLauncher, Esme, is what I'm using there. So this is it. This is uLauncher, and I've got the emoji plugin, which they happen to demo. I don't think it's built in by default. It's there's a bunch of extensions. Can you search these? No. But I'm using one of these emoji plugins, like here, this one. So you can add these extensions to uLauncher, and this is what I'm using to do the emoji pull-up. So yeah, EM unicorn. There we go. And now I can just paste a unicorn. There we go. I saw a quote the other day. I spend 50% of my day trying to find the right emoji, and the other 50% trying to find the right GIF. So true. So this helps. It's a genuine productivity enhancement. My Linux machine isn't a facsimile. It's facsimile for macOS at all. Yeah, I've got into macOS a little bit last week or so. I have an old MacBook. I say old. I was told in the Apple Store it's not old, which was kind of refreshing. So I got a 2015 MacBook Pro, which I got secondhand off eBay a couple of years ago. And that was because, you know, I was running the desktop team at Canonical, and I was like, well, I wonder what everyone else is up to. What should we be thinking about doing? So I really got it as a bit of sort of, you know, research. But I used it recently because my wife and daughter have moved to iPhone, and hopefully in the next few days I'll be moving over to iPhone as well. Yeah, so if I get another MacBook, it will definitely be an M1. Despite some of the rough edges that come with that, that would definitely be what I'd be up for. Yeah. So Dust, you make a good point. So I found it interesting. So I was in the Apple Store. I've not spent any time. I don't know anyone that actually uses an iPhone. I've seen them very rarely in the flesh. So I wanted to go and actually look at them, you know, physically. And I also wanted to have a look at the parental control software, because that was something I needed to know about. And whilst I was in the store, you know, I said, well, I have an old MacBook. And they kind of looked at me and they went, how old? And I said, oh, it's a 2015 MacBook Pro. And they were like, well, that's not old. That's still supported. And that's like 6-year-old laptop, which is kind of refreshing because, Microsoft are trying to tell everyone at the moment that, you know, with Windows 11, if your computer's older than 5 years old, it's too old, in air quotes. So, yeah, and you know, that comment in the Apple Store about the MacBook is kind of consistent with what they do with their phones, because, you know, I was looking back and the iPhone 6 is still supported in iOS 15. So yeah, their commitment to supporting devices for longer is admirable. It's one of the many reasons why I've decided to make the switch from Android. Right. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I think that's good advice. Stick away from the base models. Great device. Android feels like IKEA furniture. Yeah, there's just none of the reasons why I chose Android all those years ago are relevant anymore. So yeah, and also iPhone's commitment to customer privacy is, well, they have a commitment to customer privacy, which is entirely absent everywhere else. So yeah. Right, so Luke's got a Retina MacBook. How old is that then? When did that get introduced? Hey Jeff, good morning. How are you doing? Welcome back. Media consumption. So you're using an old MacBook for watching stuff. Yeah, I could see the temptation of like getting entrenched in the Apple ecosystem. I'm going to try and resist, I'm not interested in Mac laptops and computers. But we have Rokus, which are quite dated now. So I am thinking, Apple TV, maybe replace the Rokus. And when our tablets are old and decrepit, then switching out our Android tablets for iPads. But I don't want to get into everything being Apple. I think it'd be nice to have that class of devices, you know, those home devices, sort of, you know, Mac or Apple. You've gone all in, have you, Dust? Very good. Yeah, I can see the appeal. I mean, it's, you know, I've already got a bunch of the accessories for the new phone have turned up before the phone. So, you know, I've got the MagSafe chargers and all that sort of stuff. No phone. Well, my wife and daughter have their phones. They have already stolen all of my add-ons. Yes, and the M1 Silicon there's no two ways about it, is impressive. So yeah, got the iPhone, then the MacBook Air, and then an iPad. Yeah. Well, like I say, I could totally see us moving to iPads. I mean, I had a difficult job finding affordable Android tablets that weren't just from no-name brands. And when I looked, what we spent on let's say affordable tablets from Lenovo, they're no more affordable than buying actual iPads for the specs. So, I just assumed that iPads were going to be way out of budget, but turns out no, not so much. Tablets are just sort of a consistent price across the board, really, except for the like mega cheap no name things, but you don't want one of those anyway. eGPU with 3 screens, right? Okay, so what have you got AMD graphics in yours, or is it running? Is it Intel embedded in a laptop dust? Yeah, I think Danny, you're right. I mean, I struggled to find. So I knew I didn't want a Samsung device. So as soon as you rule out Samsung, where do you go for Android tablets? It's basically no-name brands, or I found Lenovo were making them, and they've actually got a range of affordable, decent tablets. So that's where we landed. But yeah, I kind of regret that now. I wish I'd got iPads back then, because had I thought about that a bit more, that would have made more sense long term, I think. Yeah, they are. I'm happy with the Lenovo tablets. I'm disappointed with how long we're going to be using them now. But yeah, they're quite good, and we've got those in the kitchen. We've got they come with the Echo speaker dock, which charges it and makes it another one of those devices, and we have those devices around the house. Refurbished iPad 8. Okay. Oh, nice. That's a good deal, Paul.
Thank you for the follow, Lutiel 2142.
Thanks very much for the follow, Lutiel. Appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. So you've got an RX 5700 XT. Okay, nice. I've got one of those as well now. And I got its big brother to go with it as well, which I'm testing at home at the moment. I was having a conversation with some Linux nerd friends of mine about whether or not the new 6000 series can actually replace Nvidia for streaming in terms of quality and efficacy of encoding. So that's something I'm digging into a little bit at the moment. Lutiel says they're using a MacBook Air, I think that is an MBA, with M1, and you love it. Yeah, I bet you do. I had to play with them in the Apple store. I had to walk away. I thought, if I don't walk away now, I'm going to be buying one of these. Yeah, there's a lot to like. I know colleagues of mine have got them as well. Danny, you've got one as well, right? You've got the MacBook Mini M1, I think. Is that right? Oh, crikey. Danny, you're thinking of going Chelsea Cucumber edition. Well, I couldn't possibly comment. So what was this here? So Dust says, I think Nvidia have won that space. Yeah, well, yes, that's why I'm using Nvidia in all of my stuff right now. There is a number of features that we do get on Linux. Don't get all of them, but there's a number of features we do get on Linux, which NVENC, which is obviously the sort of killer feature for 2000 and 3000 series cards, and then NVFBC, which is essential when I'm game streaming. And DLSS is coming soon, TM. But then we do expose the accelerated AMD encoding on Linux through the VA API, and that seems to have improved. So I'm coming up with a way to do an objective quality comparison of those two at the same resolution and bit rates to see how they compare, and also how much they consume of the GPU resources, bearing in mind that unless you do max quality NVENC, if you do anything from quality downwards on NVENC, that's all on discrete silicon on the Nvidia GPU, where as soon as you use max quality, it borrows some cycles from the GPU. Whereas my understanding is all of the encoding is on the GPU cores on AMD. So it's like, what is the impact of doing that, and how does the quality compare? So I mean, that's what I'm digging into at the moment. And then is it FXR? FSR, whichever it is, the super scaling technology that AMD have brought to market, that's coming to Linux as well. So it's an interesting time to start benchmarking that stuff as Linux gets caught up with, you know, the ecosystem offerings that those platforms have on Windows. I'm just going to have to scroll into the history here because I can see there was yeah. And, you know, the other thing is in the OBS snap for Linux that I maintain, I integrate, what's it called? StreamFX. And that exposes a fully tunable NVENC set of configurations. So that's made by Zaymar. You're probably familiar with this, I imagine, Dust. But that really takes the NVENC quality up a notch without yeah, I thought you probably would. that is kind of like one of the killer plugins for OBS in my opinion, because yeah, I'm when I do game streaming, I stream at 936p 60 frames per second using StreamFX, obviously at 6 megabits because I'm just affiliate and I'm not prepared to risk, you know, messing around with bitrate on Twitch. And that with NVENC using StreamFX, tuning all of the knobs and buttons is actually decent quality. I'm very happy with what that can produce. Turn off things like motion blur in games, it's excellent. I imagine for live camera stuff it's more than good enough. Yeah, well, there we go. So I've done what I set out to do today, and we've got a topic for the coming days. It looks like it will be libvirt tomorrow. We'll have a look at that, see if that's a thing we can backport into the PPA to sit alongside QEMU. And Danny, let's have a chat in Discord. Oh yeah, we have a Discord in the panels below. There's a link to our Discord. You can get there, wimpysworld.io/Discord. There's a whole bunch of Linux nerds hanging out in there talking about development and streaming and broadcasting, and the Ubuntu Mate team hang out there as well. That's where our team does all of our collaboration on the distro that we make. Oh, Linux pool. Every time. Nice one. I'm a little bit better prepared. I have a tab already open in the right category, muted. Let's see if I can find something interesting that is also in English, because we found an interesting group the other day, but they were streaming in Portuguese and I felt a bit bad that we kind of disrupted them because they switched to English on account of the fact that we raided them, which was I felt a bit bad about. So let's have a look. Oh, here we go. We're going to do this one. I have found the very thing. Right, Yannick, you'll like this. I have found the very thing. Let's go over here. Let's do this. So we're going to go raiding, everyone. Thanks very much for stopping by. I'll be back tomorrow. Let's kick that off now so that process starts. So we'll be heading over there, and I'll be back tomorrow, and if I don't see you before, I'll see you in the next one. I've got to prepare for the very last Ubuntu podcast recording, which we're doing this evening. So there it is. The end is almost upon us. Thanks very much for stopping by, everyone. I hope to see you soon. Let's do a raid. Bye. Okay.